Well, the biggest trend is the move to mobile, and we've seen huge smartphone growth and tablet growth. We're now going to see pretty much every device in the world connected to the internet with sensors in them that will talk to each other, they'll talk to us, will make everything much smarter. Within media, the shift to mobile really is changing how information is found and consumed and shared, and ultimately how media companies make money, because you can't rely on just having a fixed television or a fixed computer anymore. So those are the biggest trends. That's one of the things that people often miss when they look at the overall average of media usage today, is that the way young people use media is very different from the way older people use media. Turns out that media habits stick with us for life. If you grow up reading a newspaper, you're likely to continue to read one. You can't imagine life without one. It's the same with television. But if you look at what 16 to 34-year-olds are doing now, it's fundamentally different than what 65 and 75-year-olds are doing. And so as those media habits, which are very mobile, very digital, very much sharing and discovering information with their friends, as those folks get older, the whole media usage of the population will change as a result. Well, digital is a very different medium for journalism than television or print, and I think a lot of the early experiments in digital journalism were really copies of a newspaper or a television network. And what the new generation of digital journalism companies have figured out is actually storytelling is very different, distribution is very different, how you get stories in front of people, and they're now a group of companies that really are native digital news organizations. And those companies are just now really starting to grow, and it's now becoming a viable business model. So this bears very well for journalism over the long haul, but it's fundamentally different, and the way the information is now being consumed by the younger generation is fundamentally different. So you'll see a lot of changes in journalism over the next 20 years. It's a huge struggle in the same way that it would be a huge struggle for a newspaper to suddenly produce television news. It's a struggle for newspapers and TV companies to produce digital. And many of them have very good digital businesses. A lot of the companies in the United States have excellent websites and apps, but it's not their primary business. They will always be first and foremost a television network or a newspaper. And so that creates an opportunity for companies that are native and pure digital to try to take full advantage of the digital medium. And there's so many small, subtle, but important differences that ultimately it gives those companies an advantage. The main thing is distribution. The big difference, if you look at most traditional media, whether it's a newspaper or a television network, the distribution is something that you earn over time, and it's a physical distribution mechanism. So it's either a stack of paper in the case of a newspaper, and you control that completely, or it's a cable channel, or it's a particular frequency for a TV network. In digital, there's none of that. Anybody can reach anybody. So anyone in the world that publishes something could reach 3 billion people, if only those people know where to find it. So distribution is what I would describe as soft in digital. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's training people to come to your site to check on what's going on. And so it's not something where you can just simply post content and suddenly everybody will find it. You have to build the distribution. And that's something that's been very challenging for a lot of the traditional companies. Each distribution channel is different. The audience for that channel wants something different. It's highly visual. You have to build up your followers in the particular channel. So it's very different distribution mechanism. Well, in speaking for media and journalism, I think that digital is basically where the cable industry was in the late 1980s, where you had early networks had proven that you can have a cable news network, but still relatively few people watched it. They were much smaller than a lot of the traditional news organizations. But then for 10 to 20 to 30 years, they grew and they built big global businesses, immense reach and influence. And I think that that's what we're starting to see with some of the digital companies. They're starting to reach a size that would have really surprised people 5 years ago, but I think it's only the beginning. I think these companies will get much, much bigger than people think. DLD is a wonderful conference. There really is nothing like it anywhere. This mix of culture and digital and design and the inspiration of people doing cool new things. And you always see, sometimes at tech conferences, they tend to be focused on a very narrow slice of tech. When I come here, I always see something that I wasn't expecting to see, some cool new idea or what have you. It's very fun to be here.